Hi, guys. Welcome to Core Meets World with your host, Corey Brandon, and special guest, Sam Williams. Sam is a sophomore here at UNC, double majoring in nutrition and philosophy with a creative writing minor, and is currently running for president of the Black Student Movement. Special announcement, by the way. So welcome to the show, Sam. You want to just tell us about yourself?
Thank you for having me so much. Yeah, so my name is Sam, like Corey said, and I am a sophomore on this campus. I am running for BSM president, but I do a lot of things on campus. I'm in the American Mock World Health Organization, so I do a lot of health-based activism. I'm also very prominent within like the creative writing spaces. I do a lot of writing. I am also a novelist, so we can talk about any of those things and anything else, really.
Right. Okay. So the first thing I want to dive into, I thought you were going to touch on it when I said, tell me about yourself.
Oh.
I want to dive into this green obsession.
Oh, yes, of course.
So let's just hear like the backstory. Because if you don't know Sam is always in green. Like no matter what. That's why I'm in green.
Thank you.
I like to fit the vibe of my guests. Like I was saying in my last episode with Mary, like I try to like slide into my guest aesthetic a little bit. So that's why I'm in green. Sam is known for green. So let's talk about the history of Green Sam.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I think I really started to obsess with green in like middle school. It was that time where, everybody was doing like weird things and I was kind of just like, I don't know why, but I was in that obsessive mind state. And so I started wearing green a lot and just doing things that like pertain to green. So like even on test days, I would pick the green folders, my backpack was green, everything was green just for fun. But then like, I don't know what day it really clicked, but I was like, you know what, like this is the bit we're gonna like stick to. And so I started like buying everything green. Anytime I got money, like that was the first thing I purchased. And like quickly, like 50% of my closet was green. Then it was 70%. And then next thing you know, I don't know what isn't green in my closet. And I think it really just kind of reflects my personality really well. I think the color does. It can be very bright and vibrant, neon greens, or it can be very muted. And so it's very it varies, just like I do. So.
Right. Oh, that's a cool way to say it. Like even your hair is green.
Right.
Like you made, and one thing about it is like green is one of those colors that a lot of people don't like and a lot of people can't do. So it's really like unique that that's a color you chose for your aesthetic because it works. Like it works.
I appreciate it.
It definitely works, which is, really interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to wear green. Like green is, but you've definitely flipped it and given it a new look. So good on you for that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So moving on from that, jumping into kind of like the UNC experience. Right. So you touched on like middle school a little bit in your green obsession answer. Can you talk a little bit about your journey, like just like academic journey, like what led you to UNC and what was that like for Sam?
Right, for sure. So my academic journey was very unique because I'm a military kid. So like I moved around a lot. And so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for a large portion of my academic career simply because I didn't really have any infrastructure or like a really base in anything. However, I had always known that I was interested in health. I always knew I was interested in advocacy. And I always knew that the Black experience was so varying because my experiences were so varying that I really wanted to incorporate that in whatever I did. And so all those things kind of piled up and pointed me towards like a public health focus. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but our Gilling School of Public Health is number 2 in the nation. So that really brought me to North Carolina. And then when I was looking at like programs and advocacy, I found the Black Student Movement. I found a lot of other organizations like it. And I could just tell that the students on this campus were really focused on what I was focused on. In addition to just, being academically excellent, we do very well. And I appreciate that. And I like to surround myself with other individuals who are also excelling. That was the case through middle school, through high school. Even now, I'm very active in clubs. I was active in clubs in high school and middle school. So I think the trajectory just matched where I wanted to be, and UNC is kind of the epitome of like the right space for me. Yeah.
I would say, so like it's like you saw UNC as a kind of launch pad to get you where you wanted to go.
Absolutely.
You knew that this environment would give you the resources you needed to be where you wanted to be. And I feel like that's the story for a lot of us as to how we got here. So like now since you've been here, obviously, UNC is an amazing school, but like any school, we have our issues. And one of those has a lot to do with identities. So kind of talking about UNC, that kind of leads me to my next question of, a lot of people are curious that don't go here. Like, what is the experience like from your perspective as a minority student at a PWI that like UNC? It's not just a PWI. It's a PWI that's historically discriminatory towards a lot of towards a lot of minority groups. So it's a very unique school to be at as a minority. So could you just give us a little peek into your perspective on that?
Yeah, for sure. So like when I did come into UNC, there was kind of this idea that like, everything's wonderful all the time. And, we're accepting of a lot of different people. But as I've, been here, you grow to understand that we are in North Carolina, that while we might seem like a very, open-minded school, there is a lot of barriers to success and a lot of barriers to happiness on this campus. Specifically, like I said before, I do a lot of political activism. A lot of times those spaces on campus, they might seem inviting at first, but when you really want to get stuff done, especially trying to push for your minority group specifically, a lot of times the doors start to close on you, and you really have to fight for yourself in those spaces. And then even in academics, a lot of times they market towards, black, queer, brown, honestly, a lot of minority groups specifically saying, hey, we want you here, we want to hear your voice. And then when you get to the classrooms, all of a sudden your voice isn't that valued. And so it's one of those things where, at first it was definitely demoralizing because it was like, well, how am I supposed to really advocate for myself in this space? However, I really think it's pushed me to be more vocal, and it's made me realize that no matter where I go, even what some would consider to be a very like liberal campus, that you're still going to need to advocate for yourself because there's not infrastructure set up for you to really help you succeed.
Right.
However, I definitely am trying my best to put that infrastructure in place for the people that come after me, so that it's not as hard. But I do acknowledge it's probably going to be difficult for a very long time given the system that we have set up and the fact that we're a public university.
Right. And a lot of the decisions that are being made, surprisingly, come from, a lot of people with money.
Right.
Specifically right now, it's a big issue. I don't really know much about it, but I do know it's a big issue right now with a lot of conservative individuals with a lot of power behind the scenes making a lot of decisions for the university. Especially regarding the chancellor situation, the chancellor search, which is really, really controversial right now.
Yeah,
but I like the way you painted that picture because like it's not all like sunshine and rainbows when you're a minority at a PWI, and I know like a lot of times it looks that way. Like from the outside looking in, UNC, like unless you are here and you have that experience, like it looks like so inclusive and so like it's a liberal arts college. Like a lot of people, like people have that perspective of UNC. So I think it's really important that you kind of like pull the curtain back and say, hey, like, like that's not the case. But, hearing your experience, would you say, given your experience, would you say that kind of pushed you to search for organizations like the Black Student Movement?
Absolutely. I think when I got here, the Black Student Movement was one of the first organizations that kind of reached out to like its section of minorities, right? And it really let us know that like, there is a space here that you can do something with this. Right. And so specifically, as I really started to understand how little the university was really supporting me, I looked for organizations that would actively support me. And BSM was such a big example of that because we have such a focus on like uplifting community and keeping the Black student voice at the center of it all. Right. And so no matter what happens, the idea is that your comfortability should be first in BSM because it's definitely not first on this campus.
Hey,
so
there you go.
I loved it.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. You're wow, yeah, exactly. So could you talk a little bit about the intersection between your passion that you touched on a little bit about, the advocacy, and also being, an African American student on campus that is looking for that sense of community. Like I'm sure like BSM just seems like the perfect intersection of both those things. You're being able to pursue both of those. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that's gone, like freshman year till now, and like how you've been able to really like pursue both those things with that organization?
Absolutely. So I think specifically for BSM and like how it's really allowed me to bridge those two things, I feel like BSM has this hold on advocacy at UNC in a way that I really found empowering. We were founded on this like idea that you could really shape a campus based on like just the Black student voice alone. And so coming in, I knew that. And then as I was working with BSM, specifically in the committees that I was active on, which was like service and education, Black minority health, and LGBT plus V&E, I really learned that there was a lot of ways that I could that initially I might not be accepted or allowed into spaces, but I could push my way in and I could actually do some real like good there. And so I found myself going to a lot of events for sure for BSM, but also making a lot of connections with people who are in BSM who are also doing other things on campus. A lot of people in BSM do student government stuff. A lot of them are active in smaller or just more niche organizations that cater to specific audiences. And I think over the time that I've worked in BSM, I've really learned that like, wow, there's a lot of different types of Black people on this campus who are all experiencing the same types of oppression, but we all want to like get to the same goal. Exactly. And so really it was really helpful when I was like, more so struggling with getting all these things done, to look to those people who are also struggling, but like we help each other and, like we get to vent to each other when things don't necessarily work out the way they're supposed to, or when we do have successes, we get to share them. And so I think advocacy is one thing, but really having a community to support your advocacy is kind of like really important to keep it going.
It's foundational.
And that's what makes us, a movement and not just like a club or an organization, because we really help each other move forward. And I think that's the best quality of BSM and the best quality of any really good organization.
Right. That's the best way to put it, like moving forward, because that is interesting that it's like, not just like a lot of colleges have a Black student union,
right,
or something like that. But like here, y'all are Black student movement. Like it sounds innovative. It sounds progressive. Which leads me into my next question, actually, because I'm sure everyone's very curious. Like, throughout your experience in BSM freshman year and going into now, obviously we're wrapping up sophomore year now. What like motivated you to say, hey, like I want to take the helm of this movement. I want to be the one, shaping this environment and pushing us forward and being the leader of all of these leaders, Yeah,
no, I definitely think it was a journey, because at the very start, specifically when I applied to the executive team, which is what I'm on right now, kind of shaky on whether or not I could really fully make a place for myself in BSM. And so at that time, I wasn't even thinking presidency. I wasn't thinking anything related to like higher exec. I was just thinking, how can I do like a little bit in this sphere, add the skills that I have, which at the time were just communications, like Canva and all that type of stuff, and really make a small dent.
Yeah.
And so I joined with that. However, the executive team, like we worked so heavily together. I got to see so much of what our current president does, our current vice president does, really what all the team really contributes to it. And before I say anything else, I just want to add, like the entire executive team puts in so much work all the time. And I value every single one of those positions. But when I was really thinking, okay, what is BSM missing, or what can we emphasize? And especially as I was talking to other students who are in BSM who, we always want to portray ourselves as the best, but every organization can, grow and move forward. And especially in a movement like our own, we need to continue to move forward. And so as I talked to other individuals and I heard what they really wanted from BSM, which is really a lot of community and a lot more from our political action side as well, I looked around and I was like, well, you have those skill sets and you're willing to develop them more if you need to, and you're willing and able. And so why not now? It was really kind of my moment. I was like, okay, yes, somebody else could theoretically do it, but that you have the drive, the passion, and the skills, and that you're willing to put in the work. You have the opportunity, let's take it now. And I'm so glad I went for this opportunity, because even just in this, like the start of this campaigning process, like I've learned so much about what the Black student wants on this campus and how I can best advocate for them.
Right.
And that's like, no matter how it goes, I definitely know that's information, and that's a learning experience that I will be able to carry with me no matter where I go, and how I impact the surrounding community. Yeah.
Wow. So one thing I want to touch on that you said was really interesting. Like even in like politics, like American politics, like when there's a candidate that can say something like that, can give a story as to how they ended up, going for the candidacy. Like you saw something. I'm not gonna necessarily say a problem, but you saw a potential for growth in the organization, and then you took responsibility for it almost, and you're like going in and like fixing it and making it better. Like that's what candidates are supposed to be about, no matter what you're running for, no matter if it's like congressman or BSM president. Like that's what that's what good candidates come to the table with. They don't come to the table to run for something because they want the resume builder, or they want, like another position, or they just want to say that they're president of something, the glitz and glam of being, because I mean, at a university like this, a lot of glitz and glam come with that. Like if you're a leader on campus, then that's like the thing. Like like that kind of gives you a sense of a higher sense of accomplishment. But like that's not what you literally just gave us while you're running. Like you have an actual platform, an actual goal, and you were a leader like already, and you saw that. And you're going to fix it, and I love that, and I think a lot of people will see that when you continue this campaign. But another thing you said in your answer was that you were hesitant, and you said, I think you said you didn't know if there was a place for you.
Right.
I want to I can't even imagine that. I genuinely, like, you are a leader, you have the skill set. Like, where did that come from? Because I feel like someone like you, I just can't imagine there being any hesitancy there.
See, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand. For a lot of leaders, is that we are not just born with these skills and this confidence. It really comes from trial and error. I've done a lot of things in my academic career at Carolina alone, but also just throughout my life, where I just kind of jumped in because I knew there was something to be done in an organization or in a moment, and I didn't have all the skills. But when you have that drive, when you have that passion to make something happen, you'll learn the skills. You'll develop the confidence you need. And a lot of times the confidence that you need comes from, that knowledge and that expertise that you gain on the field, on the job. And so I had that hesitancy at the beginning, partially because as much as I love my community, I love the Black community, we are diverse and we have a lot of different, feelings and opinions. And sometimes, and I think this is a big issue in general, just globally, is feeling like you belong in a space, specifically the Black space as a whole, and not just a part of it.
Right.
And so I was worried that going into exec, I would no longer be able to fit comfortably into the niche that I felt like I was allowed to be in. However, I'm so glad that I didn't let that hold me back, because I've learned so much about different parts of the Black community that I wasn't necessarily as attached to or had as much understanding of. And we are very different, but we are very unified in a lot of ways that people don't understand or don't really care to look into. And I would not have learned that if I did not take that step and was like, you know what, this may be uncomfortable. There may be a couple moments where I don't feel quite right, or I might not feel like everybody in the room wants me to be in that room, but I still push forward. I don't think I would be in the position that I'm in right now and have the confidence that I do to make the changes that I'm putting forward if I didn't make that decision.
Right. Because I can resonate with that so much. I had a similar experience last year, because I obviously am very big on real estate. That's my emphasis. That's what I plan to pursue.
Absolutely.
But I went to real estate club, and I was the only person of color in the room. And that doesn't sound that jarring at UNC, but the problem was there were about 70 individuals in the room. So I don't know. At that point, I was kind of I kind of asked around a little bit, because I knew a lot of, minority individuals at the business school. And I was like, I know you're interested in real estate. Why don't you come to real estate club? Because, I was trying to get people to come, because obviously that setting isn't the most comfortable if you're the only person of color. And they were just like, oh, no, that club is, there's no people of color there. I don't feel comfortable. And I get that. But for me, it was kind of okay, well, if you don't go, that's never going to change. Absolutely. So, I kind of took that personally. And going into this year, obviously, I ran for an exec position still. And, the thing is, I ran for the student relations chair, because I was I'm going to get some people in here. I'm going to diversify this club. And then I'm trying to do some partnerships now with the business school CEI, which I'm also on exec for. So I'm trying to kind of build that community kind of. And I feel like you're doing a very similar thing. We're kind of trying to make our mark, make a difference. And obviously that's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. And I know you can resonate with that, because sometimes I'll be in there. Like we had a meeting Wednesday, and it's gotten a little better. But not really. And I'm on exec, so I'll be sitting in the front, and I'm just taking notes and all this, and I'm just the only person of color, and I'm just wow, and I'm just And I'm trying. I'm really trying. I'm trying to implement a diversity initiative going into next semester, which I'm really excited about, and um, that kind of thing. But going back to you, so like I kind of wanted to touch on another aspect of BSM because um, I feel like you were kind of touching on it a little bit, but you said niche, the word niche, within BSM.
Right.
And a question I have that might be a little bit of an uncomfortable question, and we can totally cut it out. But as far as BSM goes, what does that look like for a queer individual on campus? Just because,
Right.
like, I know within the Black community, it's not always, well, rarely, if I'm being honest, especially in spaces that are predominantly Black, queer individuals tend to, run into issues. Like, that's just how it is. I mean, like, and I know, like, with I'm just curious, like, in BSM, has that happened? Or, like, how is that for a queer individual?
Yeah, I'd say it is rough in any predominantly Black space trying to be as authentically yourself, specifically being authentically queer and also being authentically Black, because a lot of times people like to separate the two. And there is this idea that you can't be 100% both. You're going to lose one if you do the other. And so specifically stepping into like a predominantly Black space full time with BSM, that was a worry of mine, and it had been something that I'd seen. And I won't lie, I'd be lying to you if I said that I hadn't still seen it this year. However, even now, I've been told, and I've seen as well, there is definitely an impact to seeing an individual in a position of power who carries themselves with 100% understanding of who they are and still 100% Black. Like, the reality is, I think a lot of queer people are scared to be themselves because they're of that fear that, like, if they do, they won't appear Black enough. And I had those moments in my life, but I feel like, especially through BSM, because I have made a lot of friends who also share those experiences, and also people who just empathize with us, who have really helped me come into my own. And as I've done that, I do think it shapes the way people view an entire, like, group of people. I think that as I've been able to, confidently say, yeah, I'm 100% Black, I'm 100% queer, and actually I'm 100% Black and queer, and those are really impactful things, and I can bring something to the table. I think a lot of people have been able to see that and respect it and understand that there are other queer people who can do the same.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I mean when I think about like trailblazing in the future. It's not really focusing on myself and what I'm necessarily doing, but it's setting a precedent for people who may not understand that there can be a Black and queer individual who is really impactful, really supportive of the Black community, and who really allows BSM and other Black organizations to thrive. And you don't have to either require them to hide that or, push them aside for them to really flourish in an organization or for your organization to flourish at all. And so I love that I ended up doing it because it really has shown me the impact of doing, I won't say being the first, because I'm not the first in BSM to do this, or I'm not the first anywhere to do this, but being another individual who has really stepped out and been like, hey, this is who I am authentically and fully, and that shouldn't just mean something to you. You should be able to see how helpful that is.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm very happy that I made that decision, and it's a struggle every day, but it's most definitely a struggle that I'm willing to take on for the greater, that sounds so pretentious, but like the greater good, but also for the greater good of myself. I feel like I'm learning so much.
Right. And that leads me to my next question, like, you touched on it a little bit, but like as a leader, like, if you do become president of BSM, another implication is like these students that come after you,
right,
these Black queer students that go into BSM or just UNC in general, like in these classes under us or after us, they're gonna see that you did it, and that's gonna give so many other students the like motivation and the drive and the like the feeling like, oh, I can do that too, like, and people say that all the time, but it's genuinely so true. It's so true because I feel like like in both of our fields, like I mean, you can talk about your experience, but as a business major, like all these rooms that I spy myself in, like especially when you get to the big rooms, especially when you get to these big rooms with these important people. I have been the only person of color, the only, like that, like, and it's just like seeing someone else would have given me even more confidence and even more motivation. It's like you're going to be giving other students like a whole other like perspective, even just by taking the time to like build out a campaign and like really put a spotlight on not necessarily yourself but your goals and your hopes and your plans for the innovation of BSM. So like good on you for that, because I think that's just amazing within itself. Like you're giving so many people just motivation. And
Thank you.
yeah, so I really want to ask you too, what advice do you have? Because I mean, like, I know we're sophomores, but feels like we've been here for years.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, believe it or not, we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of wisdom when it comes to all this stuff. What experience do you have for students, specifically minority students, that, might not have the confidence or might not have the drive due to this environment? What advice could you give to them about navigation of it and how to like come out on top?
Absolutely. So I think to start, you really can't let anybody else devalue your value in a space. So it's one of those things where you need to understand that there might be people more qualified than you or more experienced than you, and a lot of times that comes from the fact that they have, a better opportunity to get involved. Right? They don't have to stick a leg out. They're automatically allowed into spaces. But your unique experience is value. Like it holds inherent value to anywhere you go, and I think as I've been more vocal and really expressed my thoughts and opinions on things in the academic setting, in BSM, and everywhere really, I've learned that you might have to push for it a little bit, but you have like an inherent value in a space. And so when you come into that space knowing that these people might not necessarily automatically want you there, or these people might not necessarily understand your true value, but it, you carry yourself in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
Like you start to speak with a cadence that makes sense to others because and they really read it as that confidence that it is. And it's really not even truly confidence. It's just knowing that you may not be the most qualified, but nobody can tell you that you don't belong in the space.
Exactly.
You can't allow other people to tell you that you shouldn't be here. You may not necessarily add the most, but you will always add something. And that should always be enough to push you into those spaces. And then from there, it's a matter of really, like, each individual is going to have their own, like, path towards this, but really understanding what your voice is and what you really care about. Because, like I said before, a lot of spaces are closed off to us. And so you want to pick and choose your battles when it comes to where you're trying to enter. Because, I mean, there's been other spaces that I have felt very rejected from, but I knew that the largest impact wouldn't come from those spaces, so I veered otherwise. And I know that somebody else could come along, possibly because they saw me or possibly because they saw somebody else, to really make changes in those spaces. But you really do have to understand, like, choose your piece as well.
Right.
Because you might not win every battle,
Exactly.
And you really want to maximize your happiness as well as your impact. I think they're both equally important. And if you can really keep those two things in mind, even number one, you're going to hold yourself with more confidence for sure. But number two, even if you're not successful, it won't be so demoralizing. You won't feel like you can't get back up and do it again because at the core of it all, you still have something to share. You still have something that you can really bring to wherever you go. And so if this space doesn't want it, that's fine because somebody else definitely will.
Definitely will. Right. So, going off of that, like, I guess the last question I have about, your presidential candidacy is looking like, I guess, over a year is the term a year. So over the year, what do you see for BSM, the year under the Williams administration?
Oh, it sounds so official. Well, so I have like three main pillars to my campaign, but I'll spare you the details of all of that. The specific things that I really want to see are, number one, more political action. As we've addressed before, our campus is very, subject to the political whims of the overall state in the nation, and a lot of that stuff trickles down. And as we can see right now with the administration, it's very obvious to us that we were barely being represented before, but we're no longer being advocated for by our school. So where they fail, we have to pick up the pieces and really push forward more. And so I really want to establish more like advocacy like centric events and advocacy centric like parts of the organization that can really put that momentum back in the movement that we've been talking about. And so that's kind of key. But in order to do that, and this kind of leads to the second thing, we have to be like united on one front. Like we can't be fighting each other and then also fighting, you know, oppression from like a larger organization. So I think that unity is really important, and that kind of starts with us getting together more. One of the biggest like complaints that I heard from BSM, even though like I said before, we do a lot of work and we try our best, but one of the complaints that I heard was that we don't host a lot of events that really bring everybody together. Like, you know, unfortunately with the events last semester, our earlier events got like kind of postponed and then shut down, and we really only had one or two that everybody felt like, oh, this is the place we're gonna go. And while those don't seem like they're super, you know, political or super like productive, they're inherently productive because they make the Black community more synergistic. They bring us together in a way, and then when it comes time for us to advocate for ourselves, we are on the same page. We're on the same front. Additionally, I think it doesn't just have to be like, you know, in a celebratory setting. I think at one point the Black student movement definitely had a general body meetings, and I think those need to come back, because in BSM's movement, a lot of times it can feel very executive team heavy, and I want more of the general body to have a say in what we do, and then also as a result, they'll feel more inclined to go out and advocate with us, because it doesn't just feel like our logo tags into whatever they want to do. It feels like we've all come together to really push for the Black student voice, not the BSM executive team student voice or, you know, any one individual. And I think we've done a lot to make that happen already, but I think general body meetings are really that key in the pin that we don't quite have, because people feel disconnected. And so I would love to put those in. And then lastly, I think I mentioned before how when we talked actually a lot about like the different niches within like the Black community, and I mentioned how they aren't as different as people make them out to be. And I think we can learn a lot from each other. And so a lot of our events, and we started to do this a lot in the second semester, and I really want to roll it back around to the next year and make it more prominent. But we should have more events that look at the intersections of different aspects of being Black. So we have committees right now. We have Black Men United, Celebration of Black Womanhood, LGBT plus V&E, Service and Education, First Year Class Council. And the first year experience, the Black male experience, Black female experience, the queer experience, they're all very, like, they seem far apart, but we can learn from each other very heavily by bringing them together. And then as a result, we can resolve some of these issues where people feel uncomfortable, because we do tend to separate ourselves. And so I think BSM has a unique position where we can bring people together under the same logo, under the same idea that we want to foster more connection with the Black community. And we're starting on that same page. And then whatever the topic is, we can always bring it back to fostering connection within the Black community. And if we can make that happen, I think our political activism and our community and our academics, honestly, in every aspect of our lives, like our quality of life on UNC's campus will increase.
I agree. And when you really tackle that issue of connecting the different niches in the Black community, you're also tackling the issue of intersectionality and discrimination, because that is the most powerful form. And, you know, and a lot of times, like you said, it's the niches get separated, and they're not so separate. You know, we're facing, no matter what minority group you're in, you're facing a very similar form of just playing out oppression, or, you know, like microaggressions and all those things. We're all facing the same general thing. It's just for different identities, just for a different reason, same result. So yeah, that sounds great. Who wouldn't want to vote for Sam?
I sure hope so.
Yeah,
we will see.
I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited for this. So to wrap it up, I guess we can move a little bit from the presidency and talk about something kind of fun.
Okay.
So I haven't had a chance to talk to the viewers about Cowboy Carter.
Ooh, okay. I will always talk about Beyonce.
Yes, I was like, well, we can touch on this in Sam's episode, because I mean, I'm sure you're very you've been listening.
Oh,
too.
Absolutely, it's been on repeat.
Okay, so yes, me too. So Cowboy Carter dropped. Has it only been a week?
I think it has been a week and one day. Wait, no, it dropped on
It dropped on Friday.
Yeah.
So it was a week. Because today's
exactly.
Friday. Wow. It feels like so long ago because it's all I've been listening to. I know so many of the songs by heart. And I want to talk. I want to talk to you about this because I feel like you could have a similar appreciation for the album as I did. Because I feel like when I listen to the album, I listen to the album with my friends who do not understand.
Right.
So it was kind of a tough. It was kind of a tough first listen because I was having an experience. I feel like I genuinely went through a musical experience. Like
I agree.
I don't know if it's just because I understand the context more better than other people, and I understand. I don't fully understand, but I have a pretty good understanding of the musical history that she taps into, and what she's trying to do is so much deeper
Than people
realize.
Yeah.
Like American Requiem alone.
The song, that intro, when I tell you, I had to pause. I had to sit there for a hot minute because even in that first song, she dropped so much, not just like emotion, but she cleared some people. She let them know immediately.
Yeah.
First of all, that for those who are we were just talking about separating being black and queer, separating being black and country. You can't. There is way too many black country individuals in this country alone to really make that separation. And she made it clear as day, not just with her music, but with her words. And that's what I just love about Beyonce is she's so articulate. She's so clear. Like
She's so strategic.
She really thinks about it all.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that Amen fades into American Requiem, but Amen also fades into I'm That Girl from Renaissance.
Yeah.
And how Cowboy Carter was supposed to come first. Like those little details are just wild. Like the order of the album. I've been through the album so many times. There's not I'm gonna be honest. The first listen, there were a few skips for me.
Right.
Now I can't.
Yeah, you
there's
can't
no
now.
skips. I remember I thought Alligator Tears was a skip originally.
But now it's so high for me.
It's
because you have to think about it more.
Exactly. Daughter
is my favorite song on the album. Well, it's Daughter or well, it depends on my mood actually. I have a lot of favorites. I'm not gonna lie to you. But Daughter and why am I forgetting the name? Protector. Daughter and Protector.
Okay.
Because I am a sucker, not necessarily for a ballad, but more so I'm a sucker for songs like when you like sit down, you know, after you've like jumped up and down and blah blah. You sit down and you really listen. Like they really make you think about your own life. And when I heard those songs, specifically hearing her like Rumi at the beginning of Protector, and then hearing like how a tear dropped.
Yeah,
more than one tear fell.
Tears fell. Yeah,
and it was one of those things where it's like, I just felt the emotion she had for the people that are close to her, and it made me think about the people that were close to me and what I like, the reasons that I do what I do. And that's just why also another reason why I love Beyonce is because she really she does have a reason for what she's doing. Like she's past the point where she's needing to really appeal to the masses. She is Beyonce, and there was a time where maybe she was worried about that, but I think at this point that's why she's released albums like Renaissance and Cowboy Carter, which really push the boundaries of what people accept as music from.
Dare I say she's reshaping music?
She is.
Like, I don't want I feel like one thing that I said after second listen was, at this point, Beyonce is transcending music,
right?
And like people might say that's a stretch. But I'm sorry, Beyonce. I feel like with these two albums, like I'm personally like I liked Renaissance a lot. Don't get me wrong, I was on repeat. But this album to me was
more. Yeah.
It was like this solidified. She didn't need to prove anything, but this for me made Beyonce objective. Like I just feel like in my eyes, like you have to put her top 5 greatest artists of all time. Greatest artist of all time. Like this album was and then I would say for me, first listen, I really liked. Two Most Wanted with Miley Cyrus. That's probably my favorite, one of my favorites. And then Levi's Jeans with Post Malone.
I love
that
Levi's
song
Jeans.
Is unbelievable. Like Post Malone and Miley Cyrus, like Beyonce kind of shed a light on their vocal ability and like allowed them to shine. And what people also don't realize is like vocally, this album is probably one of the most vocally challenging albums of all time. And you like listening to it, you wouldn't think that, but like if you really dive into what she did, like the layering was perfect. Like the way that she almost had her and Miley's voices were almost in like
they were
intertwined.
Off of each other.
Yeah.
They were moving within each other. Those two, I'm telling you, like, they have such unique voices. And they really, like, when you're talking about shaping music, like, you know, there's a lot of artists that'll come and go, and a lot of songs that'll be really good. But I think there are just some artists, like you were saying, that, like, when we think of, like, the Michael Jacksons, the Mariah Careys, the like the Aretha Franklins, like, they came into the music industry and they did something so impactful that the rest of the world, like, couldn't forget it.
Right.
And I think that, like, the songs, like, that Beyonce puts out, but more so, like, just the artistry she has, like you said, it transcends what music is. It really starts talking about messaging. Like, you know, you can go into a Beyonce album knowing it's going to be so good that you don't have to focus on, like, whether or not she hits the notes, or they're not, like, you know, there's art, like, you know, artificial, like, stuff attached to it. No, you focus on, like, the sound, the feelings, the words, and as a result, she's able to convey so much.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just, I don't understand how at this point we can say anything. You could talk about Beyonce as a person, whatever you want to do, but to say her music is not so insanely impactful, I think that's a shame.
I think she's the greatest living artist.
Yeah, I'm
right
racking
now.
my brain right now trying
Like,
to think of somebody else.
I would love for someone to, like, tell me someone who's better.
Oh,
like,
that's a
genuinely.
challenge.
No, like, seriously. Like, to someone, like, not like a better, like, and vocally, after this album, if she, personally, in my opinion, I know this is a subjective thing, but in my opinion, she's the greatest vocalist of all time. And I know that's heavy, but consistency in doing things live, also, I feel like the only person that can see her on the stage is Michael Jackson.
Right.
I would say Prince, but no. And then I would say Janet Jackson, no.
See, I think Prince and Janet Jackson are both insane performers, and Beyonce is also an insane performer. But I think Prince, he could sing, and Janet Jackson could also sing, but neither of them could, like, sing the way Beyonce sing. Yeah, and it was like it was together. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes Beyonce so amazing. Is, like, whenever you see her in concert, she will always knock your socks off.
No
matter who it is. She can be singing at the CMAs. She can be singing for, like, rock and roll. She could be singing for, you know, pop. And no matter who she's with, you will always look at her. She will always be the center. Like, no matter where it is, she's the center. And in addition to that, her vocals are always on point. She's just so good at what she does. Like, I long to be as good at something as Beyonce is at music.
She's classically trained, and people don't realize that. So, you know, like, when everyone heard her sing opera on Daughter, they were surprised.
They were shocked.
I wasn't. Beyonce's
No,
classically trained. She, like, the Dangerously in Love opening on Renaissance, and then the Drunken Love riff. I think she did that strategically. I think she strategically put that on the Renaissance tour and did that in Dubai before the Renaissance tour, because she's about to do something, like, with the Cowboy Carter tour. She's about to do something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to solidify herself. Like, people are going to finally see that she is the greatest performer of all time. And when she does rock, it's nothing. It's
like, what's next? Like, I really just appreciate being in, like, the time that she's living in. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that we get to live through this. Like, I feel like my parents always talked about living through Michael Jackson and Prince and that type of thing. I'm so glad that our artist, like, the one that's really shaping our world today, is Beyonce. I think it's top tier.
And she's doing so much advocacy throughout this, and people don't see it. She's, like, doing it very, like, people don't hear it, because, I mean, it's kind of subtle, kind of not. But this whole album was a statement. It was advocating for Black people and, like, and reclaiming our voice and shedding a light on the fact that country music came from Black people, and so did rock. The first rock song was by a Black woman, like, and she's about to show that. And you know, something, it was this theory on TikTok that I saw, and they said, you know, she said it was 3 acts, but they actually think it's going to be 4 because something me and Beyonce have in common. Both of our favorite numbers are 4. She talks about it all the time. She had the album 4. Jay-Z was born on December 4th, my birthday. She was born on September 4th. She wanted 4 kids. A bunch of 4 stuff. Her anniversary is April 4th, you know, 4/4. She's very 4-oriented. So that's where it started. But then people were saying, you know, like, it would make so much sense if the 4th album after the rock one was a Destiny's Child reunion where she introduces Blue to the world.
Blue.
And if because you know that Blue Blue Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Ivy comes from IV, the Roman numeral for 4.
Oh.
That's why she named her Blue Ivy. She loves 4 that much, y'all. So, and then they were saying, oh, well, yeah, because everybody knows that Destiny's Child reunion is coming. It's been pretty much like everyone knows that. And then obviously they're going to introduce Blue on that album as Destiny's Child. Because, you know, they're going to say like she's the child of destiny, blah, blah, blah. She's going to launch her to the world, which, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily fully true, but I do know that I do know what Beyonce is doing. Beyonce is definitely about to launch Blue. Like in the next 5 years, and that sounds like a short amount of time. People say something
Blue
longer.
is growing. Like Homegirl is a
She's-
teenager? Question mark.
And
So you don't
Beyonce's
know.
been strategically placing Blue. Every award show, Blue's there. She doesn't bring her other kids all the time. Blue's at every award show. Blue's been at like celebrity parties. Like Blue's been out by herself.
Hair launch. She's
Yeah,
been there.
and like now, and then she had Blue on the tour. Blue, like she's training Blue to take over, you know, the Beyonce legacy. Because like people were saying, like we said, Beyonce transcends music. There's no one that's gonna come after really. That's gonna,
Beyonce.
and there's no one out right now that can really fill that spot. People thought it was gonna be Chloe. I kind of thought it was gonna be Chloe, but
I kind of knew it wasn't. I love Chloe. Like, but I kind of knew there was a vibe where it was like she was R&B, hip hop in a way, but Beyonce's Beyonce.
Yeah.
And I think people always knew that when she popped onto the scene, like it was Beyonce from the jump.
right.
I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have their places in music, Halle and Chloe. But
Oh,
I
I'm
think
so excited
Beyonce
what
is-
they're gonna do. But Beyonce knows that no one else is gonna be able to take her, I guess, position. Like no one's really like good enough. But Blue's gonna be. I think she's gonna be, because let's be real, Beyonce wasn't dancing like that at that age. Beyonce didn't. Beyonce, you know, she started like dancing heavily more so in her early 20s.
Right.
And Blue was like, what, 10?
No,
11?
I thought she might turn 12, but she's definitely like a preteen, I think.
Yeah, like
And
she's like
so-
12 years old and she's dancing at like professional levels. By the
she's
time she got to
doing
the end of the Renaissance
she
tour,
was being
her skill level was insane. Like she is doing this in front of a stadium of people, not an arena, a stadium of people. She's doing this, and like obviously we know she can sing, and she like she's been like playing a part in like the tour planning and stuff. You saw that in the movie. Like,
yeah, she's gonna do something in entertainment.
she's coming.
You know she's
coming, and I think she's gonna do. I mean, I think Beyonce's gonna do what her dad did for her the right way.
Right, hopefully. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, because I think she's gonna do it in a very healthy way, and I feel like Blue's coming in the next 5 years. I know it sounds so early, but it's not. She's 12 now, 12, 13, 11, about 16, 17.
No.
Beyonce's gonna hard launch her child, and it's gonna be right after the last act is wrapping up. People say she's gonna do like the reason we haven't got the Renaissance visuals is because she's gonna do a visual of all 3 acts.
Everything. That would make a lot of sense.
And she's gonna, because like that's why they said that's why the albums fade together. It's because it's gonna be one long visual, and I feel like after she wraps up the 3 acts, boom, Blue, and I'm out. Like I genuinely think
first,
that y'all, yeah, I'm
Blue
saying
it's dropping 5 years from today.
Like,
when it
mark
happens.
my words. Come back to this episode because I'm not joking.
There you go.
I'm not joking. I can see it happening. I want my credit
Okay.
because like I know the Blue's coming. But yeah, I thought that would just be something fun to talk about because I know that you appreciated the album just as much as me.
Absolutely.
Still on repeat. Go listen to Cowboy Carter if you haven't.
Stream
today. We're promoting her even though she's not paying us. But yeah,
she is not.
She is not.
She's
but
paying us in like social credit and like musical experience.
Yeah, that is our payment. We get to go listen to it.
Right.
We get to go listen to it after this. But yes, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
it was
me.
really an honor to have you here and hear about, you know, your plans to run for BHM president. So if you BSM, did I say BHM?
No,
oh my
Black History
God.
Month. Trust me, we're still in it. It's Black History Month all year, y'all.
Why did I say BHM? Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
BSM president. If you are a member of BSM, go out and cast your vote. You know who to vote for. You heard the campaign. You heard the plans. You know the candidate for BSM. Oh my God, why am I struggling with BSM? You know the candidate for BSM. You know who to vote for. So, with that being said, vote Sam Williams for your next BSM president.
Period.
Is there anything else you'd like to say, regarding promoting yourself, plugging anything like that?
No, I just say, like, like Corey said, please vote for me. I mean, if you've heard and you really like what I said, definitely take the time, look into like my campaign. I'll be posting more stuff, so you'll be seeing me around. And then pay your dues. We've lowered them to $10, so you can pay for them, and you can still get your shirt too. So that you can vote, and your vote will be counted. Voting is on April 12th. And I hope that you pick me. Thank you so much for having me, Corey.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. If you got this far, I always say this. If you've gotten this far in the episode, thank you so much for supporting Corey Meets World. Make sure you go support Sam. And that's all we got. So bye, guys.
Bye.